Welcome, everyone, to Financing Philadelphia's Future. I am excited to be here with you. My name is Vanessa Lowe. I am your host today, and I'm also the host of Vanessa's Money Hour on G-Town Radio that airs Saturdays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock. Very excited to be with you. Today, we have as our guest a regular who we really love. Walt McRee is the president and chair of the Public Banking Institute. And here we are. I think we're still within those first 100 days, are we, of the new administration? And so to read from the press advisory that we put out, Walt McRee will be our guest on Financing Philadelphia's Future. And in conversation, he will discuss the opportunities and challenges emerging from the chaos being generated by the Trump administration. So looking forward to this conversation. Let me give you a couple of tips if you're new here. Please set your screen to speaker view. That's the best way to participate with us by using the icon that's usually at the top right of your screen. We welcome your questions. Please enter the questions in the chat, and we will pick those up as we go through the half hour. Let us know which section of the city you're from. We want to know who's participating here. And if you'd like to join the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition, enter your email and your name in the chat so we can add you to our database, and you'll get notices about these monthly Financing Philadelphia's Future events. Walt, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, hi everyone. Nice to be back and to have a chance to talk about public banking, which is what I've been doing for the last 15 years, it seems. There are other topics, but I don't get to them very often. But today, I think it's a pretty interesting opportunity because I would say that given the horizon, the landscape of our political environment and what's going on with our governmental systems, that we are, as citizens, left with a certain challenge, and that is, how are we going to look after ourselves when the systems that we've relied on and we've used for building and sustaining and expanding our prospect and our protections seem to be dissipating and diminishing. And in the context of the public banking movement, which is a movement to simply retain the power or reclaim the fiscal power that belongs to citizens. It's our money, after all, that is deployed in various places around governance. That now is the time when we need to refocus on our local concerns as well as our local abilities. Now is the time to move forward with public banking in a way that we've not been able to, or that we've really have not, I guess, been able or quite forced to do as we are now. It's a moment of economic, cultural, political, and even spiritual uncertainty. Our presumptions of access and protection and the prospects are all in question, because the monetary powers that really own and run most of the principal systems that we rely on have a clear lack of commitment to the public health and well-being, because they are, after all, only after profits. So it's in that space of profiteering with our assets and our resources and our prospects that we must stand and take a stand to push back for our own interests. There's a new book out called "You Only Get What You're Organized to Take." Now, that is an inspiring sort of a mandate, but a directive to say, look, folks, and this, by the way, comes out of the anti-poverty movement, but that if we're not organized as public banking advocates, as protagonists for a new way for us to create and protect our public resources, then we're just going to have to acquiesce to the powers that be. And when you think about the national economic profile, how rife it is with monetary inequities, that are so bad that the word shame probably isn't descriptive enough to apply to how America is functioning. There are criminal inequities in our monetary systems. that are perpetuated by special private interests who facilitate the numbers of people who are living without shelter, kids that are hungry for food, serious stresses, the very serious stresses on everybody who's trying to maintain or at least conduct a normal life in America where things are too expensive. All of this is staggering and I think it's obscene, and it's not getting any better. We have 60% of the people living paycheck to paycheck. It's undermining the social fabric and the economic fabric of community and the responsibility that we have to each other. So, we're seeing a wholesale dismissal and dismemberment of key protective institutions that have made local economies and populations thrive. So when we look at systems that are being taken out from underneath us, like the Education Department, the Protection Agency, the Veterans Association, USAID, for Pete's sake, the people whose lives are really being jeopardized by this moment in public policy, you realize that if anything is going to change about that, we're going to have to be activated because we think public banking is a critical player in resisting the demise of these public economic resources and assets that we've got. We have to reclaim that control. So when the spirit of, we only get what we're organized to take, let's take this seriously. We have got to defend ourselves against what is coming our way. Now, Vanessa, just before we went on here, shared that she had a very, one example of that, which focuses on people who were who lost everything in Hurricane Helene. And Vanessa, maybe I should ask you to just step in and tell your experience about that.
Sure. I'm
Go
happy to
ahead.
talk. And I'll just tell it just like I have been telling the story. I woke up on the Wednesday after the election in tears. And my first tears were really for the Inflation Reduction Act because they've told us what they were going to do and they've been doing it, essentially taking away that money that was approved and started going out the door, particularly from the EPA. And so I cried that morning. I cried that week. And within a couple of weeks, though, I was approached by a colleague. I used to work at the CDFI fund, the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, and I became a contract investment officer for something called the Green Bank of Rural America that had been awarded $500 million to finance community lenders, which included CDFIs, but other community-based lending institutions to make loans to help their very distressed communities to recover or build systems to deal better with climate change. And the first tranche of applications we got were very much focused on Hurricane Helene because that had happened while we were finalizing the application. And so I was so excited and so proud to be part of this small team of people who were reviewing applications, presenting to committees, and then, getting, yes, we're approved. So we approved millions of dollars. And within the last 2 weeks, it has completely been stopped. You've probably seen the headlines about it. Judge Chutkin is handling that particular case. And so it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because, it's one thing, like I said, it already is targeted to very underserved communities. But Helene, there are people who are still without housing, without water. And so that money really needed to get out of the door soon. And it's completely been stopped. So just a tragedy.
And I think your story illustrates beautifully a horrible situation because hurricanes can happen anywhere, but a horrible situation compounded by the news yesterday that FEMA is going to be closed. At least that's their plan. The plan, the administration's plan, to cut the Federal Emergency Management Association. Let the states do it. Now, where are the states going to get the money, folks? Vanessa, talked about $500 billion in place to serve there. Well, that's just one example. But if you look at the others that are likely to come down the pike, how would a locale deal with that? How would the city of Philadelphia deal with a matter like that where they need to have suddenly a vast amounts of new stuff and they don't have the resources? Well, so that's where public banking comes in, where we are in a position. I should say we should put ourselves in a position of really mandating that our local money stay local, that the money that we would be sending off to Wall Street, whether it's our deposits or our pension funds or anything else, that should be going into our local public bank, and so that we can finance ourselves and recover from devastation like this. Now, we know from the Bank of North Dakota's experience that when they had a fire and flood in Grand Forks, their public bank was there the next day with the money that helped them clean up and so forth. And they recovered dramatically faster than across the river, which had to go to Wall Street in Minnesota. So that's our predicament. We need to get this institutional framework established, and I think it also means that we need to push harder on our elected officials and others so that they can understand how this works and why this is an important next step. By the way, that partnership, the public banking movement is beginning to kind of regroup itself around an understanding that community banks and credit unions and CDFIs, which also, by the way, were undercut by the administration, that money, very important community development money, undercut by the administration. Well, the public banking movement is going to be and does embrace these community lenders as part of our family of fiscal protection that we want to see for all communities around the country.
Yeah, yeah. Peter, let's hear from you because I guess I love the title of that book. We can only essentially, are we prepared to take the resources, right? So is Philadelphia prepared to take those resources? So do you want to just give a brief update on where Philadelphia is with the public bank, Peter?
Well,
And then we'll go
most
to
of
the
our
questions.
effort in recent months, most of our effort for at least the last year or more has been with the proposal we made to the pension fund for establishing an asset class for local economically targeted investments. And that's still our primary focus. But Walt, as we look at the landscape that's developing and the withdrawal of federal funding, our focus has largely been on concerns of identifying gaps in financing for minority-owned small businesses and affordable housing, cooperative development, things like that. But as funds get withdrawn by the federal government, should we be shifting our focus toward infrastructure needs and financing for public projects, for schools and school construction and for water development projects and things of that nature?
Yeah, that of course is a critical need nationwide, and again, public banking, can come to the rescue with that. Let's take, for example, a local example of Mayor Parker's 30,000 affordable housing aspirational quest. Obviously, the city needs tons of affordable houses of one form or another, and the plan that the mayor has is to borrow $800 million in a bond, which, if you guys know what a bond is, you borrow it basically from the market, from the capital markets, and typically that doubles the cost of the loan. So that for $800 million, the cost is it's going to be about the same. So it's going to double the cost of this project. So what we've done, the Public Banking Institute is taking some interesting creative initiatives to look at how we can use a new evaluational tools like AI, for example, to look at situations and what a difference it would make to have a public bank over having to go to Wall Street. An initial workup of this prospect of 30,000 affordable housing units purchased or accomplished through the borrowing from Wall Street through a bond or from a Philadelphia public bank shows that there could be a savings of over $2 billion in interest, and simultaneously enabling a $1 to $2 billion in community lending, and while also maintaining and using some pension funds for that, maintaining the pension returns on a very stable sort of a basis. So that infrastructure need, which is national, the city of Philadelphia has got a big aspiration. They should be able to realize it, but a public bank in Philadelphia would enable it in a way in which the city would not be expanding its debt load. Now, nationally, there's a variation of this that you all should know about. It's called the National Infrastructure Bank Coalition, in which the idea is to, in a public bank format, to create $5 to $6 trillion in investable infrastructure money without raising the national debt. Yeah, I'll say it again: $5 to $6 trillion without raising the national debt. This National Infrastructure Bank Coalition is desperately needed. It has about 50, almost 50 sponsors in Congress. We need to have everybody write to their representatives and say, we stand with this idea. But there again, you see where the public banking momentum and formulation can come to the rescue of a situation that we all find ourselves in at the moment.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that. Um, this is interesting. So your AI, you all have the data about the 300,000 houses. You put it into the system that y'all have created. Is that something else that other cities can use? Tell us a little bit more about that and who can access that.
Our view is that this technology, which is so remarkable, has enabled us to do something that we actually started 10 years ago. In 2015, the Public Banking Institute initiated a campaign called What Wall Street Costs America. And what we did with that was to evaluate, or at least to take a particular market and figure out, based on available data, what was being spent on interest, fees, and other costs for those banking things. And as ACRE, the Alliance for Racial Equality, analyzed that $160 billion was leaving cities and states every year to go to Wall Street. That was a framework for how we were able to evaluate what every municipality that we were working on was able to do. But it took a long time, and we had a team of people who were helping to do that research. It was really complicated. AI has been able to turn that research window around in entirely too quickly. It's just amazing. So, but we're being very careful about not putting out stuff that we don't have checked, double checked, and triple checked, so that
Okay.
we're not putting out bad information. And yes, to your question, we envision being able to make this tool available to municipalities and cities around and states around the country. In fact, we're going to aggressively move that forward because it's something people need to know. They need to realize that their tax dollars are going to New York and propping up what the oligarchic monetary control system has access to, and which is our money. Okay, let's not forget that this is our money. Getting our hands on it is really next.
Yeah, and I guess I was thinking more that I know that Mayor Parker maybe hasn't been very responsive to us around, picking up on where, we had passed legislation for the public bank, but seeing a study like that that talks about, hey, if you want to get this done and get it done for what, $2 billion less, you might want to, start talking to us now. So yeah, Peter, what have you got?
Yeah, well, with all the disruption, the intentional breaking things, if you will, attacks on the independence of the Federal Reserve and FDIC, there have been sticky points for us with these institutions. Do you think that there might be some opportunities of things loosening up, uh, just sort of unintended consequences of the disruption of the Trump administration, some openings for solving some of the or removing some of the impediments that we encountered to public banking.
I guess I would say that, that the institutions that we have relied on as community lenders, the community banks, the credit unions, have been primary contributors to community development through the years. And now, with the CDFI a fund being imperiled, I think it's going to put more onus on them and locales to try to find ways to finance that. Now, one of the things about the Philadelphia Public Banking Initiative that I think is country leading, frankly, is that the work that Peter and the team in Philadelphia is doing, Vanessa, is that they're getting creatively creating new creative collaborative relationships in which we're starting to look at the way and where our money is deposited and kept and how and under what conditions it's kept. That is to say, what kind of access do we have to it? So we have started to make some really dynamic and exciting partnerships with players in the community finance field that we have not seen before. Now, around the country, I think that we also have seen some very creative local community financing institutions arising out of the grassroots. So the public banking movement intends at this point to pull all of these resources together so that we can stand together as citizens. I hate to use this phrase, citizens united, but as united citizens to be able to influence and affect change. And I think that as the citizens stand together, one of the upshots will be that the politicians who have been so reluctant or so uninformed or so sketchy or so compromised that they will also stand with the citizens, say, yeah, let's get this public bank thing done so that we can get on with our lives and start doing the development work that has been on our list for a long time. So yeah, maybe there is something in this haystack beside the kind of stuff we've been seeing.
Yeah, particularly about the CDFI fund and the threat is they said, oh no, we're not trying to take it away, but we're essentially they're going to, kind of get rid of everybody, right? Just like sort of take the legs out from under it. But most of the CDFIs that exist, they're in Republican states or Republican districts, and so we're hoping that folks are going to start getting spines, as we're saying. So speak up, come on, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Peter, what else we have? And everybody else, we've got a couple other people. Please put your questions in the chat for Walt McRee.
Well, I could throw in. I would like to throw in also in updating about what's going on in public banking around the country.
Great,
There
thank
are
you.
many initiatives underway. Washington State, Oregon State, and California. There are several very active public banking initiatives in East Bay, in San Francisco, and in Los Angeles. Some interesting challenges there in terms of regulatory restraints or constraints. In New Mexico, where the people there in the public banking movement has done a beautiful job in characterizing the public banking movement as one of economic prosperity, building it around. It's called the Alliance for Local Economic Prosperity. Instead of the public banking movement, and it's brought together all of these civic organizations to say, "Hey, yeah, we need this." Well, other places around the country include in Colorado and New York and in Massachusetts and Vermont. There's some stuff there as well. So I would say that this latest development in DC is going to precipitate new and creative initiatives. Florida and Tennessee, for example, the two states that were never on our radar, have also some creative approaches to wanting to build to incorporate public banking, in their fiscal tool shed. Yeah.
Well,
So
we speak a little bit about the idea of converting green banks to actual chartered banks that are depository?
Yes, and that's a very good and a powerful point for public banks. And the charm of the distinction between a revolving fund and a depository bank is that depository banks, like the ones we envision, are able to leverage their capital theoretically 10 times. So if you have $1 million, you can lend $10 million. Well, no other institution is allowed to do that. What the green banks and the I banks that we've seen have all been revolving funds, meaning they'll lend $1 million, but they've got to get the $1 million back into the fund. Whereas when you have a bank, you can manifest that and multiply that reliably and consistently. Very important power distinction between a depository bank and a revolving fund. So that's part of the awareness and the education that we're also promulgating. I would like to invite people who are here, because I know we're running out of time, just to join us at the Public Banking Institute on the second Friday of every month, where we have a coalition meeting of people around the country who talk about what's going on and also ask questions and discuss how public banking is being applied or could be applied, and how we would address solving problems with the public bank that they haven't approached before.
We'd love to
So,
join that, Walt. Please put in the chat the link that people would go to in order to sign up for that or get access, or say
okay.
it out loud.
Well, go to go to publicbankinginstitute.org,
Thank you.
uh, our website, which is filled with a lot of great stuff, from videos and theoretical argument articles and academic articles, as well as legislation and other updates on what's going on. We're also now on Substack and Instagram, and we're starting to build our social media at a new level at long last.
I'm impressed. That's beyond me. I'm like Substack, Instagram, but good for
Yeah.
you. That's great. It's 4:58. We have 2 more minutes that we're going to stay and continue recording, but we will continue the conversation after we turn the recording off. So guests who are here, feel free to stay along. But if there's any final questions, put those in the chat immediately. And yeah, we hope you join us next
Yep.
month. Peter,
And
anything
you can,
else?
Don't see questions in the chat.
Okay.
Walt,
Go ahead, Walt. You were going to say something.
oh, I was just going to say, if you want to save the chat,
Mhm.
that, there at the top of the chat list is the three dots and like that. Yeah,
Yep.
very good.
Good tool to have is to save the chat. Fantastic.
Well, well, thank you so much for inviting me to chat on about this this thing that we love. And I think that when I think about where we are as American citizens right now, we look for a place for small d democracy, Democrat, all of us small d Democrats, to take a stand, to participate. Money is where the power for public policy is made, is realized. If we don't have money, we don't have power in this society. And since we're really up against the people that have all of it, we've got to start moving public policy around public interest. And so let's get our own bank.
There we go. Thank you all for joining us. Again, please join us every last Tuesday of the month. Take care. We hope to see you next month.